Hey everyone, and welcome to our season finale of Cozying Up with the Clear Cut. We have a special episode today. I'm sitting down with my husband / co-founder Kyle, and we're doing things a little bit differently, kind of just talking through like how we founded the business, kind of little like secret behind the scenes stories throughout the years, and yeah, it's gonna be super fun, so tune in. Hey everyone, and welcome to the season finale of Cozying Up with the Clear Cut, where we typically get up close and personal with women that inspire us. But today we're having a special edition episode with myself and my co-founder / husband, Kyle. A lot of you always ask me, how do I work with my husband? How did we start our business? So we're going to get into all of that. Hi, Kyle. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
This is a new experience for us. We've never done a podcast together.
We've done podcasts on the same team, like we've been interviewed together, but never with you asking
just
the
each
questions.
other.
Yeah.
Well, it's a conversation. I'm not going to be just like interviewing. I mean, asking you questions.
Of course.
Anyway. So yeah, Kyle and I started the Clear Cut together, and we'll give you like just a little bit of background on how that happened, the ins and outs, all the juicy details, and answer some questions that you guys asked on Q&A the other day. So I'll get started. I graduated from NYU in 2013. I'm super old now. My family was always in the diamond and jewelry business. So on my dad's side of the family, they were all diamond cutters and dealers. My dad's originally from Antwerp, Belgium, which used to be like the diamond cutting like capital of the world. And my mom and my dad started their own antique jewelry business. So I grew up around diamonds and jewelry my whole life, but never really thought I'd go into it because they were like, oh, it's a dying business. Like, don't do it. But after graduating from college, as many of you probably felt similarly, I didn't really know what to do. I was kind of lost, and I decided to enroll at GIA, the Gemological Institute of America here in New York, to become a graduate gemologist. It was kind of just like a way for me to extend my schooling a little bit longer by 6 months and stay in the city. So I did that, and while I was there, I not only fell in love with diamonds and gemstones, but I also spotted this cute boy, and I met Kyle while I was there. But he came from like a really different background. So tell him your background. Yeah,
so I'm not from a fourth generation, diamond family. It wasn't predestined for me. I never actually thought I would ever go into diamonds. I was really involved in politics and political science was my major. And when I graduated college, I actually had the opportunity to work in Africa, in Sierra Leone, on a political campaign, which was a pretty transformational life experience, but it's kind of a story for another day. But through that journey, I had an opportunity then to start a fair trade diamond mining company. But I didn't know anything about diamonds at the time. And so my investors in that venture said, there's this thing called GIA, it's in New York. And I was, sleeping on the floor in Sierra Leone without electricity and running water. And I saw the opportunity to go to New York, and I said, I'm in. So it was really for me kind of like an excuse that my investors thought was a great idea for me, and I was just excited to be in New York. So moved to New York, enrolled in GIA, got immersed in the world of diamonds, which I really knew nothing about.
So to clarify, I was in the graduate gemologist program for anyone that's like looking into these programs, which is like a 6-month, if you're doing it in person, program where you do like first the diamonds course, which is 6 weeks, and then you do like colored stones and everything for the rest of the time. But Kyle came later while I was in colored stones to do the diamonds course. So he was getting his diamonds graduate.
It's a long-winded way of saying Olivia's more qualified to be a gemologist.
I'm just laying, well, yes, but I'm also laying out the timeline so people like understand the overlap.
Correct. I was in the shorter program, graduate diamonds. Olivia was in the more extensive graduate gemologist program.
Yes. Not that we're equally the same amount of experts in diamonds. I just have like colored stones.
No, I think you're more of an expert in diamonds. I think I can concede
but not
that.
At that time. Anyway.
Not at that time and not at this time.
Yeah.
But went to that program. It was really eye-opening. Most of my classmates were from around the world, from like families like Olivia's that had worked in the industry or had,
much bigger jewelry families.
Sure, but like that idea of like, this is what they always wanted to do.
It was weird school because it was super niche. Like no one really knew about it, and you didn't really go there unless you like had some sort of family ties or something to the industry, because who else goes to like diamond school. But yeah, it was super fun. And so we were in separate classes but we had the same free periods. So we had the same like lunch breaks, whatever, and we get out of like class at the same time. So I kind of spotted Kyle from like a mile away, and I was like, oh, who is that cute boy? Because there weren't a lot of cute boys at GIA, just to be honest. But I saw him looking at me, but he like never came over to talk to me, and he was always surrounded by all the girls. So I was like, how am I gonna like approach this? It was
also like somewhat like intimate. There's only 20 people in each class, so it's like, if you're trying to like spit game, so to speak, it's like there's 40 people there watching. Kyle did not
spit game. He did not spit game. I had to chase him down and like hunt him down. So basically, we got out of class at the same time, and we both took, I think it was like the F train or something, but he was going like uptown and I was across the platform, and I was going downtown at the time. So I'd always see him taking that same train every day. So as the stalker in me does, one day I was like, fuck it. I'm going to like follow him. I saw him like walking in front of me to the train. So I was like, I'm just going to follow him and go uptown and whatever, see what happens. So I like jumped on his train, and I was like, oh, like I've seen you like around school. Like I already took your class. Like I'm really, really good at diamonds. Like if you want me to, tutor you or whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, sure. Like whatever. Where are you going? And I had no idea where this train went. And I was like, I don't know, like 3 stops from here. And
then I thought I was being nice because it had been like 4 stops. And I was like, hey, I think you missed your stop.
And I was like, oh shit. And I like jumped off the train, and I had no idea where it was. So I took a taxi home. But
I got your number. So.
Yeah. And the rest is history. Basically, we just started hanging out like every day after class, and started dating right away.
Yeah. And then I actually moved back to Africa for like 6 months. So we didn't see each other.
You did. But you are missing an important distinction. After like literally like a month of dating, Kyle told me he loved me.
That's true. But it turned out to be
a little too early.
It turned out to be okay because we got married.
Yeah, that's true. At the end of the day, it worked out. But I was like, oh my God, yay. But then he was like, okay, love you, bye. Going to Africa for like 6 months, like not gonna see you. So that wasn't that cool. But we spoke every single day, like for like, I don't know how many weeks, like 20 weeks or something.
We spoke every single night, which is more difficult than it seems in Sierra Leone. In fact, actually, there was one night we didn't speak.
Because his like car broke down. I knew like I'm very neurotic, and I'm like, oh my God, when I call my mom and like she doesn't answer, I'm like, oh my God, something terrible happened, which is like what happened that night. But something terrible did happen. So I wasn't wrong. And now every time someone doesn't answer my phone, I like freak out.
Yeah. And so you were kind of trying to make your way in the industry, and you worked at Tiffany for a while.
Yeah. So Kyle went back to Africa. I started working at Tiffany on the engagement floor here in New York, like the flagship store on Fifth Ave.
Which I told you to do because I was like, you need the brand name.
Okay, Everything that I've done, it's because Kyle told me to do. But yes, it's true. He encouraged me to apply. And it was a great experience. I really fell in love with like engagement rings, diamonds specifically. That's where I like kind of got into that niche. And then I started working after Tiffany at a large diamond wholesale company, and Kyle came back to visit me from Africa, and like a lot of shit went down.
Yeah, I came back from Africa, and your mom took us to Mr. Chow for her birthday, and that was nice. And my back kind of hurt, and I was like, I don't know what that's about, but like whatever. And then like I woke up in the middle of the night in like excruciating pain.
And I like woke up and I like WebMD'd it. I was like, oh, you have a kidney stone.
And
I diagnosed him correctly, and he had a kidney stone from being like really dehydrated in Africa. So he had to stay with me longer.
So then I was basically living out of a suitcase in Olivia's living room, more or less. Like I was sleeping in your room, but like all my stuff was like by the front door still.
He like stealthily moved in with me. Like he just came to visit and just literally never left.
Well, the thing was, I had left Sierra Leone because I was sick or whatever. Like it worked out fine. And then like there was this disease like spreading.
Ebola.
Which happened to be Ebola. And I was like, whatever, there's like another disease like every day out there. Like I did not care. But quickly like it started to like spread and like ravage the country. And like even there was a little scare in the US and people started freaking out. And so they kind of closed down travel. And then like, fast forward a few months, like the business started to fall apart, and like my whole world started to fall apart. And then I was just some dude living in Olivia's apartment.
Kyle tricked me. When I met him, he was like, "Oh, I own a diamond mine in Africa," and he like flew me like business class to Paris, and like he would take me to fancy restaurants, and then he ended up just being like a squatter that was like jobless.
Yeah.
Like a couple months later.
And I think the thing was, so I went through some like hard times after that.
Yeah, it was really hard for you to like get a job.
Because everyone's like, "Oh, cool, you're 24 years old and you started a diamond mine in Africa."
But you have
like
literally no other experience.
That's how do we like? Because I was basically too inexperienced because of my age to have a really senior role somewhere, but I was too inexperienced to be put in a senior role somewhere. Or like people thought, even when I wanted like a more junior role, they're like, "Oh, he's going to come in with an attitude because he's like overqualified." And I was like, I will literally do anything for money.
So what did you end up doing?
So I made smoothies.
So
Not initially.
So we were so desperate for Kyle to get a job because like he applied like everywhere. And one day we were just walking down the street and I saw this like smoothie store was like now hiring. And I was like, honestly, like you should just apply there.
But this was like after
it took a lot. It was after a while.
I would spend every day. I think I did like at least, and my goal was like 10 applications a day to companies. And I wasn't even getting like interviews. People were like, "Incredible story." Like,
no, it was like desperate times. But then you killed it and made amazing smoothies and you like rose up the ranks in that smoothie store pretty quickly.
Well, I think
while still studying, because then we were like, maybe you should go to business school or something.
Then I was like, I need to go to business school because everyone's saying I don't have like the foundational skills. So like, fine, I'll go to business school. And it also happened that the smoothie store was owned by a girl who just graduated Columbia Business School and had started that. So then she had this weird relationship with me where like everyone's making minimum wage and like, was, not.
Also, those people work the hardest out of anyone ever.
Oh, for sure. I was on my feet all day. Like it was
making like what, like $10 an hour?
$10 an hour. Like
that's illegal now.
Yeah, I think it was less than that. I remember like getting into a taxi, be like, "That's an hour's work." Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And literally like bringing home the expired food because I didn't want to pay for food.
We had a lot of expired juices that we drank. Well, almost expired.
Yeah, and like not wanting to ask my parents for money or anything, which like was also something you were.
And then you were like studying for the GMAT every day.
Yeah, no, studying for the GMAT every single day. And like, I was like, it was like the ultimate, like getting gaslit. Like, I was like, how do I go from being like super successful, like raising millions of dollars for a venture, meeting with like the actual like presidents of countries, like to making smoothies on 23rd and 6th or 22nd and 6th. But no,
you got promoted to Penn Station at one point.
Yeah, I think the Penn Station opening was a big moment in my career. But I would literally, like when I wasn't making smoothies, I would go to this place called the Atrium, which is on 53rd and Lex. It's like a public space. And I would sit there for 5 hours a day and just study for the GMAT.
And you wouldn't pee all day.
I wouldn't pee all day. And I would have to like wait till my friend Antonio would be on his lunch break so he could watch my books so I could run to the bathroom and then go back and study. Ultimately did all right on the GMAT and
you got into Columbia, which was amazing.
I got into Columbia, like it was like my first choice because I wanted to be in New York with Olivia, and it was the first school I applied to, and it was round 3, and there's all sorts of drama there. But got into Columbia, great. Continued to make smoothies at that point because I was like, I'm still not making money, and like now I've got to go into $200,000 worth of debt, and that's when I was kind of with you. I was like, you need to like start.
No. It started first with like your friends. So like.
No, but I'm saying even before that, I was before any of that, I was always like, you need to do like your own thing. Like you need to start a company. You need to start a company. Even when I had my company, like I started a company. I was 22 years old. It was crazy. Now
I had no desire to start a company.
And I remember like gave you like a textbook on like the foundations of legal startup law, and you were like, just leave me alone. Like I don't want to do this. Yeah. And then you were like, finally, you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a blog on like diamonds.
But that was only after I started helping your friends.
Okay,
so you have to backtrack it. So Kyle was at business school and like all of his friends wanted to get engaged around that same time. So they all went to Kyle because they knew he had a background in diamonds and was like, hey, like, do you know a guy that can help me get a good deal on a ring? Which like everyone asks here. And I was working in wholesale, so like I was that guy. So I helped like educate them, help pick out their diamonds, create their settings. So I was doing this for Kyle's classmates, like my friends, just kind of like on the side for fun. And then I realized like most people didn't know the first thing about buying a diamond. So I was like, you know what I can do? Because Kyle's been badgering me. I can start a blog about diamonds. So I started the Clear Cut in January of 2016. And it was basically just like for our friends and like people I was working, like Kyle's classmates, to learn about the do's and don'ts, the 4 C's before coming to work with me.
And I think the thing was also you were a communications major, which you like always poo-poo and like say that's like a dumb...
I don't poo-poo it, you poo-poo it.
I do not. I'm actually about to give you a big compliment about it. And so you had a really strong understanding of communicating and also social media, which was relevant. I think you like ran Tyra Banks's Twitter for a while. That's a random fact no one knows.
I did.
But you like that was a time when like Instagram was super nascent. Like I think like you had 2,000 Instagram followers, which back then was like a big deal.
Personally, yes, I was like an OG mini influencer.
And so you recognized like they think the power of that, or you at least understood, maybe not the power of it, but you understood how to use it. And so when you started the blog, you also started an Instagram account.
Right. And I started posting some of the designs on Instagram. I obviously like spammed all my friends and like forced them to follow the account. But then strangers started following the account and like people were DMing me and asking if I could like create their custom rings, like complete strangers. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can do that. So it turned into, that's where it really like kind of blew up. It turned into this like accidental side hustle of custom engagement rings like through Instagram DMs.
And so like I went through business school and I had gone into business school with this attitude where, you know, starting a business is super hard, and that ended very catastrophically for me. So I am not doing that. I have this fancy Ivy League degree that's really expensive.
All our parents were like, Kyle should get a real job.
And I was like, I never had a job. The first time I ever made a resume really was for business school. And so they're like teaching me how to do a resume, and I'm like super imposter syndrome. I'm in class with like all these kids who went to Harvard and Yale and like, you know, worked at Bank of America, did whatever they did. And I'm like, yeah, like I was like the coolest story, but like I like really admired their backgrounds. Like, oh, you worked at McKinsey. Like, oh my God.
I mean, that is impressive.
No, it was impressive. But they were all like, you started a fucking diamond mine in Africa? Like, what the? Like, no one understood it. So I was kind of tight with like a lot of the military guys because we all felt imposter syndrome.
Anyway, fast forward.
No, but I think it's important because I was like, I am never doing a startup again. Like that is, or like not in the near future. And so then I spent my summer at Goldman Sachs. It's like, sweet. Like I put on a suit and got one of those fancy jobs. And then I mean,
that was like the dream job.
It was the dream. It was the dream job. And it was everything I wanted. And I crushed it. And they got a full-time offer and they wanted to give me a bunch of money, like more money than like I had ever made in my life. But I was like, this kind of sucks. Like, this isn't fun. And like, I was watching your Instagram, you like grow and grow and grow, and your following grow and grow, and you were selling rings to all my friends. I'm like, something's happening here.
Yeah, and so at this point, I had like become a gemologist at a different company, and I was like running back and forth, like selling hundreds of thousands of dollars of diamonds, like on my lunch break before and after work, and it was like super stressful. And you were like, you can't do both. Like, you can't work full time and be a good like full time employee at your job, and like have this be a successful like business.
Exactly. And it was like, this could be really exciting. And this was also, I think, the time where the generation right before me in business school was like Warby Parker and Away Luggage and Glossier. Like they all came, I think not Glossier, but the other ones all came out of top business schools. It was around the same
time, yeah.
And so like the D2C thing was like really hot at the moment, which is actually interesting because we chose
like V1 of D2C.
V1 D2C. And so it was like, that was the thing to do. And so we were like, why don't we do this? But I think the challenge was the D2C playbook at the time was hire, I'm not going to like throw shade on people, but hire one of the top New York creative agencies and give them $250,000 right off the bat. That's like step one.
Spend like a shitload on Facebook ads, like whatever.
And it was just like this playbook that everyone was doing at the same time that just didn't seem rational. It seemed so expensive. And like,
especially for like our product, it's like more customized. Like,
or luxury, really, right?
Luxury.
Like there wasn't actually, and maybe there still aren't very many D2C luxury brands, right? So I was like, I turned down the job. To the dismay of my parents. And I was like,
okay, like, again, I'm the only person with a job. Great. Like, I can't quit my job. Like, someone has to make, like, some sort of money for us. So I was like, I'm only going to quit my job. Like, I promise I will, but only if we get into, like, an accelerator or, like, get some sort of, like, investment. Money. Exactly.
And so then I had to go back to, like, let's get a shitty job and, like, figure shit out. So I graduated school without a job when all my friends had like crazy, amazing jobs. And I'm like, I'm doing the clear cut. And everyone's like, well, Olivia's not even doing the clear cut. So like, why are you doing that? Especially my parents. My parents are like, well, Olivia has a job. Like maybe you should get a job. But I would spend so much time, like I met every single VC in New York, and I would like give the same pitch and say the future of luxury was digital and da 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 da, and no one get it. It was like, your margins suck, this isn't scalable, and like diamonds aren't a great business. And so,
which my parents always told me.
So probably, and like I think good ideas like, you know, aren't always apparent, right?
Yeah.
So we had like, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 no's from like every elite VC in New York, in San Francisco. Like anyone you like respect in the consumer space has met with the clear cut in V1, had an opportunity to invest, and said, this is stupid. So just, that was an eye opener. And then you start to wonder, like, are all these smart people like correct? like are we like,
yeah, you start questioning yourself, and you're like, you really, I mean, like if you're gonna start a business, like you're gonna hear a lot of no's. I mean, most of the time, unless like you're really lucky. But I actually think it's good because you have to really, really believe in what you're building, because you're going to dedicate like your whole time, all your energy, and like everything to it.
And I think the thing that was confusing for me at the time was, it's like, I started a diamond mine in Africa and raised millions of dollars at 22 years old for something so risky. I was like, I have an MBA from Columbia. Olivia has a social media following. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales, like without even committing to it full time. This is going to be like a walk in the park to raise money for. And it wasn't. And it was so, I felt like I didn't understand what was happening. So long story short, I started looking for full-time jobs because like, it's like, I think we actually got into like a
pretty we had a blowout fight
where Olivia's like, get a job. Like this, stop dreaming. This is over. And I was like, no,
he's a Pisces. So his like head's always in the clouds. So I'm never sure if it's like rational dreams or like literally like irrational. Like, come on, let's like focus.
So we eventually, it was like our last stand. Like I actually got a full-time job offer.
It was a really good
job. Another really good job. And this job wasn't like, I was been very happy to take that job. And so we got an interview at Techstars, and it was like, that is it. Like if we don't get Techstars, like, and I think it was in December or November. It was November, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
No, yeah.
October, November. It's like new year, new job. Like move on.
Yeah.
And so we get to the final round of interviews, and I've been dragging Olivia. Olivia has a job. I've been dragging you out of your job to go to these pitch meetings just to get rejected all the time. So you've like called in. Thank God
I like broke my foot earlier that summer, so I just kept saying I had doctor's appointments. But I was like, if I did not have this broken foot, like I don't know what.
And I'm like, you don't know who this is. This is the premier VC for whatever. You have to attend. And so it was the same thing. I was like, this is the Techstars like final round. And it'd be funny because in the early rounds, they're like, where's Olivia? Like all you're doing is just pitching me Olivia. Where's Olivia? I'm like, she has a job. Like you can meet with her on her own time. Like, and so we get to the final round of Techstars, and they're like, all right, come to our office at like 1 p.m. And Olivia's like, no, like I have a job. Like I'm not missing any more time. I'm coming after work. So we like write to Techstars, which is like this incredibly prestigious thing. Thousands of companies apply. They only take 10. Olivia's like, I'm not available. Like you have to come at the end of the day, 7:00. And so Alex is like, okay, like fine.
Which is
Alex,
the MD.
He's like this like legendary tech guy.
Who was running the program at the time.
So we go to his office, we pitch the business, and he kind of like starts asking like very different questions than like anyone had ever asked before. And so that was like, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This guy's just kind of weird. And then at one point to Olivia, he's like, why like did you make us reschedule? And Olivia's like, I can't do it. So he's like, so will you commit to whatever you do fully? And Olivia's like, of course I commit to whatever I do fully. And like, I'm not committed to this yet. And I was like, oh shit, like that's like a terrible sign. And then he's like, well, why haven't you committed fully to this? And Olivia's like, the margins are horrible. Like, how am I ever gonna live on like such a little amount of money? Like, do you know how little money you make on a diamond? And I'm like, oh, this is over. Like this is it.
But he liked my honesty.
He loved your honesty. He was like, you know, he's like, all these founders come in here and they just bullshit me and like tell me what I want to hear, and you just come in here and just shoot me straight. But yeah, you were just so like honest and candid with him. And so whatever, we weren't sure. I was like, that went terribly, Olivia. Like, thanks. So we walked out of there. I'm like, all right, I'm probably going to take this job. And I think I told that company, I'm probably going to take this job. And then we go away for Thanksgiving to Italy with my parents and your dad. And we're like, oh, and also we had this thing because we're selling engagement rings, right? We're supposed to like sell marriage. but I'm not engaged to Olivia because I have no money.
We're just dating.
We're just dating. I'm like $200,000 in debt from business school.
And Kyle's like, we're not going to engage anytime soon.
And so there was this weird thing, which in hindsight was a mistake, was like, we didn't like always disclose we were dating. We just were like, oh, male, female co-founder. Like, if you can read between the lines, we're clearly dating. But we didn't know like to say that or not, because we got all this advice not to say it. So we get a call when we're in Italy with our parents and we're like in town that like Alex wants to have a video chat with us to give us some news. So we're like, oh my God, like we might be getting in Techstars. But it's like, is it weird that we're both in Italy? like if we're just co-founders, like why are we both in Italy
for Thanksgiving?
Like, does he know? And so we were like freaked out of like, should we tell him or not tell him? So we like rush back, like I'm driving the car like a million miles an hour because I like agreed to a time that we couldn't really make. But we get there in time, we do a Skype video, and he says we get in. And we're like celebrating, like getting in means you get, first of all, a huge stamp of like approval and like authenticity and like street cred.
Mentorship. Like you go through the program and like you get a small investment.
You get $120,000, which like for us at the time was like really meaningful.
It was like $120 million.
It felt like 120.
Yeah.
And so we turned around to our parents like, guess what happened? Like Olivia's like, I'm quitting my job. Like, and like
my dad was like, no, don't do that.
And all of a sudden, like everyone's like crying and like not happy.
No,
crying,
like upset crying.
Everyone's upset.
Everyone's really upset. We ruined Thanksgiving.
And like everyone's so sad. And like I'm like, but I think this is good.
We were confused because like we were really happy, but then I was like, should I be happy? Am I ruining my life? Am I like quitting like this really good job and starting like a stupid ass business with this guy I'm not even married to?
And I had just told my parents I'm taking this other job because I thought you had blown it with Alex when really you had saved us. So my parents were really excited. I'd really talked up this other job. So
and we're like, yeah, it was weird.
So anyways,
whatever, I quit my job and we started Techstars in January of 2018, and it was like the best experience for us. It really like helped catapult our business.
We were around some other incredible founders. It was like we
like have mentors and friends like forever from that. Hey everyone, Olivia here. Hope you're enjoying our episode. Our Clear Cut collection features fine jewelry pieces inspired and designed with you in mind. Our collection is ever-changing and each piece is handmade and made to order here in New York City. Don't forget to check it out and use the code COZY, COZY, for free shipping on any purchase.
So midway through our first year, we got out of Techstars. We had a really unique opportunity that was kind of both of our dreams, was to be on
this particular reality television pitch show
that we cannot say the name of
because we signed an NDA.
But we were reached out cold by a production company in California, and they said, hey, we think you guys are doing some interesting stuff. We'd love to feature you on our TV show.
But it wasn't guaranteed that we would like actually air.
Yeah. And then throughout this process, this was like the most like stability I had semi-had in years. Like we were funded, the company was going on. And at this point, I'd been dating Olivia for
6 years.
I would say 5.
No, we dated in 2013. This was 28. Okay. So yeah, 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years. 5 years.
Okay.
So it's okay. And for the past...
5 years is a long time.
5 years is a very long time. And I would say the past 2 years prior to this, Olivia was asking me to propose to her. I was like, what is taking so long? And I'm like, I'm broke.
He was like, well, I made the biggest commitment to you. I like started a business with you. But I was like, that's not the same thing. But
it wasn't the same thing. And I knew for a very long time I wanted to get engaged. I just didn't know how. And I didn't know how I was going to afford it, whatever. And so we had told no one about this show. We were like sworn under secrecy not to tell anyone. But
I think we almost took it like too seriously.
We still are, I think.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Olivia's mother and I said, hey, I think I'm going to propose to Olivia
on this show.
And I think I'm going to do it on this show. She was like, what? Like, what show? Like, I think she's like a very like secretive woman. Yeah. So I think she likes relished the opportunity to be part of like a secret. And she's like, I'm gonna get Olivia's finger size, because I actually didn't know your finger size. I'm gonna get Olivia's finger size, and there was this diamond, which Olivia can go into detail, that you've always had your eye on.
My mom and my dad, like I mentioned, had their own antique jewelry business, so you had a lot of like beautiful Edwardian, Victorian, Art Deco pieces of jewelry. And there's this one particular ring that I saw when I was like 8 years old, this like beautiful Asher cut Art Deco ring. And I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this ring. Like, you have to save this for me for my engagement ring. And she was like, no, I'm not going to save it for you. It's part of my inventory. I'm going to sell it. And like, your husband's going to get you your own ring. And I was like, okay, kind of forgot about it. Yeah.
But your mother always kept it.
Yeah, she kept it.
And so I got it resized and I put it in.
Oh, well, you got really lucky that she had this really nice ring waiting for you.
Well, I think she was in Miami and she was flying to New York like a few days later. So it worked out. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. So I have the ring. I put it in my like shaving kit and we fly to LA. And when we flew to LA for the show, we also brought like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of diamonds. So you were very like distracted with like securing that. So you weren't like paying attention to any of my stuff, which was good. And we went to the rehearsal on studio the first day. And I just like gave the ring to the producers, which like in hindsight was like a stranger I never met. I just gave them a big diamond, hoped for the best. And we filmed the show, which was unbelievably nerve-wracking, probably one of the most stressful things I've ever done in my life.
Yes. I like blacked out completely.
I mean, they woke us up at like 4:30 in the morning and took us to hair and makeup, and like it was an exhausting day. And we didn't eat, and I don't think we actually went on set till like noon.
Yeah.
So it was like 7 hours of just like waiting.
I look skinny though.
Well,
you'll never see the footage, but I looked good.
So we did the whole show, and then I proposed
during the show. So I thought it was like a joke. I was like, is this for real? Like after I was like, are we like TV engaged or like are we like really engaged?
And I was like, we're really engaged. And they're like, but do not tell anybody. And then they bring a psychiatrist to your trailer to make sure you're like not like suicidal after being on television or whatever. And so it's like more of like a check the box thing. And they bring the psychiatrist into our trailer and they're like, Olivia, how are you feeling? And you're like, I don't know. Is this TV engaged? Is it real engaged? And
then I was like, do I tell people? Do I not? Long story short, we didn't tell like basically anyone we were engaged besides like our family and like my like bridesmaids for like 10 months. And I planned this wedding in like secret.
And like they were teasing like this.
And we are in the engagement ring making business. So it was so freaking annoying that I like couldn't share my proposal. It was so annoying, but Kyle was like, just hold out, it's gonna be like epic.
And they released like to the press like this season on this unnamed show like the most engagement. So we were like, oh, we are for sure. We were like counting down the days till like the episode goes live.
And then like I was at a workout class and this was like 10 months later. And so this was in like March, and we were getting married in June in Italy, and we hadn't told like anyone, which was like I had to like postpone my bachelorette party. It was like super stressful, and I was like, what's going on? Because we were supposed to air by then. And I got this phone call from one of the producers being like, I'm sorry to tell you, like, you're not airing. And this was like I got out of a workout class and I was like walking down like 8th Avenue, and I was like a crazy person. I was like hysterically crying, like, why me? It was like a really low point.
Well, you were like emotional and crying, and I was like in the like denial phase. I was like, no, guys, like we'll negotiate. How about only online episode? And you're like, it's not.
I was like, we need to move on with our life. We need to invite people. We're getting married in literally 3 months in Italy. Like, we need to tell people.
And I think beyond the fact that this was our engagement, I think one of the reasons like this sticks with us for so much is like, one, we spent that whole 10-month period really doubling down on our manufacturing, anticipating this like viral moment, which never occurred, but really put the business in a much better shape to handle future demand, which was something I think we all thankful for. And I'm not really sure we could have met the demand in hindsight.
No.
So maybe that's a blessing in disguise. And the second thing is, being in a startup is like, especially when you're married to your co-founder, is like quite a roller coaster. And I think sometimes when we have hard days, or like, it's kind of a dream come true to like run this business. But sometimes when you're having a hard day and everything seems to be going wrong, you can remember that like literally we had this once in a lifetime opportunity that was like the biggest moment of our life.
Like
that was
life dream.
All of our dreams come true. And it didn't really happen, but like yet we grew like stronger because of it. Like if I'm ever in like a pitch and I'm in a nervous situation, I was like, I was on this really stressful situation and like I can handle anything. Or like we got through something that was at the time like so devastating. And I know that seems like trivial. Like obviously there's bigger tragedies in people's lives, but it was really hard. But we got through it. Had a beautiful wedding.
Now we have good cocktail party conversation.
Yeah. So. we got through that, our first year, we did pretty well. And then we entered 2019, which was our second year in business. And
we launched the collection
yeah.
in January of 2019, which was really exciting. And still like one of the fastest growing parts of our business. So that was a big year. I mean, we thought 2019 was a huge year. We got married that year.
We were like, we thought we were on top. We're like, this is it. Like, we're married. We're on top of the world. Like, our business doubled that year.
Our wedding was beautiful. Like, we hired more people. It was great. And then at the end that year, we're like, okay, like we got a huge disappointment earlier that year, but like at the end of the year, we got Forbes 30 under 30, which was like another big dream.
And that was a huge dream of ours. So we went into 2020. We doubled again that year. Really with like a lot of momentum. We had finally developed like a killer team. Like we were starting to put like the key, like who eventually became like the key members of the team in like the right positions. And then COVID happened.
Yeah. And our business was always like mainly remote, and we had been trying to like perfect this remote buying experience. And 2020 was like, okay, we're going to finally build our like software and our like portal for like our front end for our customer and like to scale our back end. And so before COVID, we had decided to invest in that. And then COVID happened.
Well, I think what's also interesting about that is we had been like wireframing and drawing and like planning and ideating for months on the technology. And this was like always our dream. And then right when COVID happened was when we were about to sign the contract to like start building the technology. And then we were like, holy shit, like this is the end of the world. Like we didn't sell a single item, I think, for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The whole world was in shutdown. No one knew what was going to happen. And I remember our tech team was like, all right, if you sign the contract today, it's like 30% off or some huge number that was like the deal of the lifetime. And we were just like, do we do it? And I was like, and that was kind of a moment is like, sometimes like in a business, you have to like to pick what hill you're willing to die on. Like you have to sometimes like, this is a risk that's like worth like sabotaging the company. And this is a risk like probably not worth sabotaging.
Yeah.
And we went for it there. And we continued not to sell anything, but all of a sudden our expenses like shot way up.
Yeah.
And so we took a pay cut. And then we had a conversation with our whole team and said, hey, everyone's going to need to take a pay cut, which was like really sad. And you kind of felt like you were letting people down, but
well, we were trying to not go out of business.
Yeah. And then through a variety of programs, including PPP and including the economy starting to...
Well, I mean, everything started opening up, I think, like May or June, really, of that summer of 2020. And then things like just all of a sudden, like all like physical retail jewelry stores were closed, and like we were like the main destination. So COVID actually brought like a huge spike in business.
Yeah. And then out of nowhere, everything turned around. Everyone all of a sudden was going online to buy their engagement rings, and we were established there.
Our team got repaid.
I think that's important. We not only we bring everyone up, and everyone's certainly gotten a raise even beyond what they were originally making, but we also paid back the back pay of the pay cuts to everyone, which was it was honestly like a few weeks later. Like it wasn't like this was like
pretty
3
weeks later.
It was like, hey, actually you're getting your full salary plus your back pay.
Well, I don't know, because New York was completely locked down. We couldn't even make pieces. We were getting orders and we had to tell people like we couldn't make the things. So like it went from one extreme to like another.
I remember I made like this formula. I'm like, for each week that we get $0 in revenue, like this is like how much money we have to survive.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, it was dark times. But then we made the right decision to invest in tech, because that's kind of like just the direction everything really headed in, even more so than before COVID. So that's been like our main focus and kind of like a huge dream of ours to create.
Yeah. And so like 2020, we actually launched some of the back end tools, which I think has allowed us once again to double the size of the business that year. And we entered 2021 with a ton of momentum. And we throughout this whole time, despite doubling, we were still in a windowless room.
Yeah.
It was just more and more people who were in windowless rooms. So
2021, we finally moved into like a grown-up office. We took advantage of some COVID deals. And we doubled the size of the team, and definitely like quadruple the size of the office.
And it was really nice because it's like all these like people who were there in the beginning who were like in this windowless room. Like I think
grinding. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it. I got to see like that transformation and like even got to be part of like building literally the office. Like it was like a box, which I think is like very fitting that we got to like create the space for ourselves. And then 2021, we finally were able to launch the front end customer facing sides of the technology.
Which many of you, if you've worked with us for your engagement ring this year, note as GEM and your GEM portal. So you have like your own little space in your portal so you can see all your diamonds and go through the whole process right there.
And that's been an incredible experience. And, you know, as the country has opened back up, we started to do a few live events, which is something we never could have afforded to do back in the day, but have really been really effective and something we're really excited about moving forward. And I think now we're at this really unique, you know, inflection point where like we were like this little baby, like just getting by like on hustle startup in a windowless room. And now it's like we have like a meaningful revenue. We have like longtime customers who've been buying from us from years. We have members of the team who've been working here for years, who have like built it alongside us. And we're at this moment where we can really grow into like something we always dreamed of it being. And so that's
revolutionizing luxury.
Yeah. This generation's jeweler for life. Should we just go back? But like I think it's really exciting. And the great thing is when you take a step back is like how many couples, how many customers were we there for like the happiest moments of their lives and like got it right? Like how many people like when they got their like big promotion were we able to make them like put a smile on their face and have something
that's the best part.
Yeah. And like and just to be with someone potentially like beyond the length of like the company even is just like it's really special and is a privilege and a responsibility we take very seriously. You know, we continued that like customer centric, you know, attitude because at the end of the day, like what we've built is like so based on the reputation of the business. That's like really all we have. And we like guard that like with our lives.
Yeah. A lot of people have been asking me, what is it like working with your spouse? So I don't know if you want to start.
I mean, I think it's great. It can be really romantic to build something alongside someone, you know. It doesn't work for everyone, and I think it's not to like a strength of someone's relationship. It's just some people work well together, some people don't.
I think it depends on the couple too. Like I think for us, what works well is that we have very different roles, and we have like a lot of respect for like our responsibilities. Like you have like your part of the business. Like I'm not interested in like the taxes or the finances or like anything like that.
Sometimes I'm not either. But
yeah. And then I, you know, deal with like the diamonds and like the designs and all of that. And we really have like distinct roles. Sometimes they like converge in like marketing and like social media and stuff like that. But we, I think, contribute equally and like have respect for each other's like positions. So
yeah, it's something I like learned like even when I was in Africa doing business is like you come in somewhere like as an outsider or as like two co-founders or whatever, and like sometimes like often co-founders disagree on things, and that's healthy, and like debate is part of growth and whatever. But I think it's just always important to like present a united front, you know. So it's like Olivia could be like totally wrong about something, I'm probably gonna back her up in front of everyone, and then behind the scenes I'm like, yo, you were like super wrong about that.
I'm never wrong though.
Exactly. Olivia's never wrong, so this never happened, but like should it have happened? But I think it's really good to like always be united, and like, you know, we're working, you know, in some ways like by being married, like we have committed to ourselves for life, you know. So a lot of founders, like as the business develops, like, you know, the ultimate long-term strategies or like desires, like, you know, change.
Not probably always aligned.
Not always aligned, but ours, like we are working to the same things. So,
okay,
what piece of advice, you know, what would you tell Olivia in 2018 who just joined Techstars and was scared to speak to the front of the class? What would you tell her today?
I would tell her to trust the process and that you're on the right path, and to have patience and to believe in yourself. When you were making smoothies and your future seemed dim, what would you tell younger Kyle?
Well, this is like less poetic, but it's like, you're right. Like the world's gaslighting you. Like you're gonna be successful. Like this is crazy. Like don't worry about it. Like I had such a North Star that like I am going to be successful, like no matter what, and I am successful, and I have all the resources to be successful, and like not in like, it sounds maybe arrogant, but like I really believed in myself when no one else did, and like it's super important.
That was OG manifesting.
OG manifesting.
Yeah. That what you were manifesting without even knowing you were manifesting.
Yeah, I've always believed in myself. And
affirming. You're like, I am successful.
Yeah. So that's like, honestly, but I needed to hear that because there were days I was like, oh my God.
I mean, no one else was telling you it.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Everyone was like, oh man. And it was, we can go into that. But like, just believe in yourself.
I think that's the same theme for me too.
Yeah, yours was a little more like poetic. It was okay. It was nicer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You were an amazing guest. I think this was like kind of like an insight. We've never done an episode like this before, so I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was cathartic.
Yeah. But tell everyone where they can follow you.
You can follow me at.
I don't know how to
follow
end this.
The Clear Cut.
Yeah, just follow the Clear Cut.
Follow the Clear Cut.
And spread the word.
Spread the word.
We make the best engagement rings.
Yes.
It was so much fun having a walk through memory lane. Oh my God. It was so much fun having a walk through memory lane with Kyle and kind of going through all of the things we've been through in the past. I'm going to pose the same question that I did to him to you guys. What is something you would tell your younger self now looking back?